lying is the little death. When trust is broken, it's gone. Thankfully, video games are immune to this problem because we're paying to play. Gotta buy an engagement ring for the abuse. It's premium. Games love lies. You can probably recall a game that lied to you now. Sonic 06 comes to mind. Which guard is the captain? Go on, Sonic. You figure it out. Yeah, you got me. I am the captain. Now say it again. And FromSoft is a serial truth bender. Why not? Deception is the basis of the twist, something most stories eventually tap into. It defines so many narratives, it's absurd. Now, would you kindly suck me to completion? Oh, what's that? Dark Souls lies to you too? A lot of FromSoft games explicitly lie to you?
You're a child. You're a child. This is why no one wants you around, okay? You're a child!
But I want to highlight a special case. FromSoft's 2003 Xbox exclusive, Otogi, Myth of Demons. Welcome to the lyingest bastard game you've ever played. That's right, this is Lies of P, except it's Lies of O, aka the wife after intercourse. Am I right, fellas? Am I right? 2003 was a big year for games. If you churn through every release and rank the top 50, Otogi wouldn't even place. Vice City, Wind Waker, Yu-Gi-Oh! The Falsebound Kingdom. Competition was stiff. A lot of studios came out swinging, but to FromSoft's credit, Otogi wasn't garbage. Its visuals were stunning for the era, sharp, clean, and evocative. And while people whine about its combat, it's worth remembering the action genre as we know it today was only then emerging. Devil May Cry released in 2001, Kingdom Hearts in 2002. We got Beautiful Joe in the same year as Otogi, and Ninja Gaiden, not Black, but the first Itagaki Ninja Gaiden, would release a year later, and DMC3 a year after that. So as far as history is concerned, Otogi was just riffing on established concepts, speed bump, and not much of a trendsetter. That didn't stop Famitsu from releasing a handful of Otogi x Britney Spears DVDs, jam-packed with a demo for the game, trailers, and 2 Britney Spears music videos. What a combo. Talk about a combo! Like peanut butter and fish. FromSoft was also a small studio that only a few years prior kicked development into overdrive, cranking out heaps of small-scale, rapidly vanishing projects. Otogi and its other FromSoft contemporaries were part of a broader push into multiple publisher relationships, pumping out B games for Activision, Ubisoft, and Sega, hedging their bets on the other platforms once PS2 exclusive series Armored Core proved itself a reliable trickle of income. Otogi was directed by Rintaro Yamada, the guy who handled Armored Core Nexus, Kingsfield the Ancient City, and eventually Adventure Player, a total commercial failure that allowed players to create their own adventure games and came packaged with its own set of pre-existing titles, Echo Knight being one of them. He also did planning work on Enchanted Arms, which probably explains some things to about 20 people. Also Echo Knight Beyond. But it's really hard to trace meaningful design lineage stuff from these basic factoids. So, Otogi. If any game could be described as a joint, okay, something you roll up and smoke, I think it's Otogi. The thing looks dank. Sure, it's draped in a brooding, imperial, traditional Japanese aesthetic, that's fine. But this is still a sweaty B-game straight from the FromSoft production line. This smells like overworked employees. Most of the story is narrated by a distant feminine voice while Raiko stands in an empty black background. Damn, devs really hit that hashtag 000000. Here's the rundown. You're dead, but you've been summoned by this voice, a princess of some kind, whose magic is keeping you tethered to the mortal realm. As long as your spirit is bound to the earth, it withers, frays over time. So exactly like regular life, got it? Raiko has a normal health meter. He's not an invincible god or anything, more like a very ephemeral twink. And a second health meter, the magic bar. It'll deplete as seconds tick by. Twink death, Raiko, twink death. You're poisoned. You're playing the game like you're Minecraft Steve and he's poisoned. It turns every mission into a sort of time trial, which every gamer will surely adore, though you can replenish magic within missions and it's pretty forgiving, because you're also meant to tap the magic bar for spells, and there's a little strategy to that. Do you conserve it, rip through the stage like a scampering ape, blow it all like your next paycheck? I don't know, man, that new fig could fit in a jar is all I'm saying. Don't worry, I'm sure we can crowdfund that magic back later. Just hit the GoFundMe, bombs away! So Otogi's a little quirky, but it's definitely not complicated. You move around in 3D space, wrangle a fairly stiff camera, and remain transfixed by Raiko's elegant jumping animation. and his flowing hair, and his long, thick hitboxes. There's a lock-on button. You can slash at enemies with simplistic combos a la Dynasty Warriors, simply tap through the regular series, or diverge with a strong attack input. You can equip different spells before any given mission and work them into combos as well, letting you pop off charged up, max strength magic if used at the tail end of a combo. Incidentally, that's how you clear any fight, if you're stuck. Oh wow. Most of the game takes place in the air, and that's basically Otogi's gameplay signature. It's weird, strictly loose. Every attack, every combo has significant recovery frames, or if you hang out with Smash players, end lag. But to be fair, they also call the reversal a Mamma Mia, so meaning bro kinda hangs out in the air. If you hated Birth by Sleep, stay away. And with so many flying enemies, landing and actually mashing through the hordes rarely happens. Raiko has no invincible dodge roll, but he can zip around. It gets you into the zone, perpetually in the moment, because you're juggling so many minor gameplay decisions, but usually not having to think too hard about any one of them. Remaining health and magic, positioning, the camera, it's easy to lay back and autopilot in the early game, gently preparing the player for the lie boner poised to enter their anus. The stages are dim, eerie, either desaturated or tonally bizarre. If something's bright and colorful, it's usually magical. Otogi takes place in a mythical version of the real world. It draws heavily from Japanese myth, and you square off with all kinds of recognizable beasts.
Quote, clearly there's a common pool of Asian mythology which these and other works draw from. For someone in the West, though, these things appear impossibly exotic. I'm drawn to the narrative not because of its Japanese aesthetic, since, for the most part, it doesn't feel particularly Japanese. You know, to be fair, this is a blog post from 2010. Early FromSoft had immaculate vibes. I remember borrowing Lost Kingdoms 2 as a kid and being pissed I can never get my hands on anything even approaching that level of weird on the GameCube again. Otogi is ominous, mystical. It gets you into the flow, following directions from the princess, slaying demons, flitting around, zone over zone, taking in the sights, smashing up the highly destructible environment, something incredibly rare for its time, moving, killing, moving, killing. You'll hit some roadblocks though. Oh, it's early FromSoft. Oh, it's early FromSoft. Love, love, love that I just died there. Oh, You get playing too long and you start finding inconsistencies in the design. Give you an example. The mission text here will tell you to guard a spirit across a series of bridges. Try it in earnest and you'll lose. So incredibly fast because you can't control what the demons are targeting. Sometimes it gets pelted with projectiles, sometimes it doesn't. You just don't kill fast enough to handle all the spawning demons, so you quit and sit there, thinking, what do I even do? And then, out of frustration, sometime around 4 or 5, you jump up, teleport across the stage, ignore the escort part of the quest, and suddenly, all the demons are following you! And the spirit gets off scot-free. In this late mission, you're in the middle of fighting some sort of boss monster when the princess tells you, perhaps this one can't be harmed with blades. But you absolutely can just kill it with your melee weapon. No magic required. You're actually supposed to knock it into objects, which Otogi is kind of built around. Wall splats mean extra damage for you or your enemies. It's so ingrained, you might not even realize it's a core combat mechanic. Even so, the monster is certainly not immune to melee damage. So I guess that was I wanted. Sometimes it's small stuff, not even lies per se. You can just ignore the enemy-filled path to the boss and skirt around the backside, and no one can stop you. You just need a basic understanding of the game's mechanics. It's awesome! A lesser game would have made an invisible wall. A lesser game would have been made by cowards. On that note, you can hit the roof of any stage with this one weird trick. Raiko has an upward slash that you can only do right after inputting a dash, and only in the air, but by abusing this quirk, you can go anywhere you like. Yeah, that Knuckles glitch is just built into Otogi. Not every stage demands meaningful player interaction. You can run along through a whole handful of them, including this one that directly asks you to defeat the demons using the magic gains. The actual goal of the stage is reaching the end of the thin mountain path by any means necessary, running, jumping, dashing, and breaking down obstacles. You even get a special weapon for running straight there like a time trial. Nothing to do with demons at all. Guys, What are you talking about?
In this ocean mission, you're told you must not touch the water, but all it does is drain your magic power twice as fast, so it's nowhere close to off limits. You're also told to knock off these monsters that spring from the ocean, and you're led to believe, okay, because they're not easily seen in the ocean, that once they're in the water, they're gone. But that's not true. They actually jump back on board with the same health, so eventually you realize, while they're sinking your ship en route to its destination, that you might as well just mash them down on sight instead of knocking them away. And you can let the boat sink despite what the game tells you as long as you reach the end boss. I know we're splitting hairs on these, but it sets a weird tone, one that ends up working in the story's favor. Despite the game's impressive visuals, it's still pretty messy under the hood. You realize that plenty of missions mislead you. Sometimes verbal and written directions don't match the mechanical goals of the stage. The package simply doesn't come together. And that's no big deal, we adapt and move on. Hey, cool. These weird little moments, though, these design and directive inaccuracies aren't exactly lies as much as they are products of a crunchy dev cycle. FromSoft wasn't an enormous company at this time, and they had their fingers in a few too many pies to assume any single project got quality development time. They're footprints, relics of the conditions the game was created under. And they create enough weirdness that a mindful player might start paying attention to the story, despite its incredibly budget delivery and droning text dumps.
Raiko, you must sever the ancients. Only when the 7 orbs are in alignment will the dark was 1,000 years
I'm gonna do
ago.
This time I'm really gonna do it.
Otogi is a weird game. You're fed a lot of instructions, but the narrator is odd. They have clear demands: kill these demons, break these objects, but when you pull back and stop engaging at the level the game wants you to, smashing and killing, and start reading, it gets a little disturbing. Otogi's narrator is unreliable, which might take some time to notice, because the way the game delivers information is powerfully boring and hard to grasp on a first pass. There's a lot of talk of the old capital and the Great Seal and time periods, and it can fly over your head pretty easily just running on through. Is something the game encourages with its quick bite play and satisfying smashing mechanics. Well, you can finish the game not really understanding who any of the characters are at all. And to the game's credit, it conceals so much with a simple framing device. You've been summoned by a princess to slay demons and restore the world, presumably heroic goals, right? But it's a little bit more complicated than that. You encounter a handful of seemingly sentient demons over the course of the game, mostly all targeted for execution by the princess. By the way, I'm not going to pretend they're good people, but the Soul Caller, the Centipede, the Crimson King, they're all sentient beings, not mindless drones or subhuman the way she talks about them. The Soul Caller doesn't recognize Raiko, but these creatures can sense the princess working through him, and she accuses the princess of putting her where you find her. Doesn't understand why she's being targeted by you. The Centipede is more ambiguous, but at least recognizes the princess like the Soul Caller did. Is he actually a demon? How does he know the princess exactly? Is he just feasting on the magic power of the great sorcerer's gravesite you find him in, or is he there for more personal reasons? We never find out. The Crimson King isn't even hostile immediately. He knocks you away before running, despite his immense strength. Again, he's not a mindless monster. He makes a couple of judicious choices. And on that note, the princess doesn't even mention him, neither in the level he's first encountered, despite being a pretty dangerous guy, and not once during your second encounter, despite her love of yapping. The princess frames demons like they're unworthy of consideration, unworthy of life, time and again, and leads you to believe they're deserving of execution, to believe they need to be purged. You do face one she sympathetically claims has lost his mind while she begs you to put him out of his misery, take him back like Old Yeller.
None shall pass! None shall...
But it's also revealed that he's been waiting in this one spot out of sheer resentment for over 1,000 years, along with most of the other demons in the area, because most of them were people who resisted the Imperial Court's decision to move the capital and the Great Seal, which is to say, this demon and these spirits were people left behind by a governing body. People who paid their taxes and settled down, only to be discarded when the court deemed them irrelevant and unworthy. maybe for resisting them. The Raven King and the other Raven-type demons are the real killer, though. The first demons you slay are Raven Yasha, things the princess demands be purged from the land. It's revealed in the Raven King stage and shown directly in enemy cards from the first level on that Raven demons were simply people who were exiled from the capital outside of the protection of the Great Seal as provided by the Imperial Court and survived and adapted to life beyond it, which left them transformed. They were a group or a subset of the populace intentionally marginalized by the regime of the time, and the princess is demanding that you kill them. Implies that they're inherently evil, that they're beyond any kind of salvation. The Raven King cuts directly to the point. Make sure you know what is true and what is not. Raiko is a thrall. His life lies in the princess's hands, and he can't meaningfully resist her, and so he furthers her agenda. An agenda of silencing past political dissidents on that now, because she was a member of the Imperial Court, whatever emperor's daughter. It's horrifying and incredibly easy to ignore if you take her words as fact, if you don't poke around. But what's really screwed up is the premise. Like I said, the way the game frames itself is brilliant. It's a game. You're a summoned demon slayer. Of course, you're gonna want to kill demons, but you're never given a choice. And yes, potential pretentiousness and disingenuous critique of the player aside, the genius isn't that you don't have a choice to kill that dog in the head, but you feel duped, suckered into doing the princess's bidding. You want to kill demons because that's what the game's about. Break stuff, kill dudes, completionist gameplay, new weapon. It's only when you actually parse what she says in the intro, that she summoned you, that your body is sustained by her magic, that you'll die without it, and that you need to kill who she wants you to, that you realize you've become this person's private assassin and you're acting under duress. You can't disobey, you'll just die. And so, playing the game as directed, you advance her agenda uncritically.
But you know, I support women's rights and wrongs, so...
The backstory informing the game is a little vague, but we know that sorcerers erected a magic seal around the capital to keep unleashed demons at bay. They weren't able to expand it across the globe, so the world is effectively merged with the demon realm, no longer separate and no longer safe. That regime lasted 1,000 years, which the bad guy, Michizane, describes as darker than 1,000 nightmares. The conflict the ancient characters of the game still remember is the moving of this capital and the Great Seal with it to an entirely different location after that first 1,000 years of the Seal's existence, an act which some faction of court members and residents resisted heavily. Those people who remained all lost their lives and persist as demons, and it isn't only them. The Raven demons you face are stated to have once been human and became demons living outside of the Seal, adapting to the harsh conditions they were thrust into, which raises another question. Exactly how many demons are actually people? A lot of the demons you face are explained in these enemy cards, and a lot of them were once human, now persisting as living resentment. The sailors who drowned, the skeleton mages, the masks, the Crimson King, and others.
Editorial note here, the Crimson King is clearly meant to reference Shitendoji of ancient Heian-era myth, and we know this because he's got the half mask which is fused to his face, which is part of the myth of Shitendoji. You know, the great terrible Oni that was taken down by Minamoto no Raiko. You know, turning into a demon is not an unheard of part of Japanese myth, but it does make a lot of the character deaths feel kind of gross. Here, he's been reduced to losing to my understanding of basic frame data. If only anyone at FromSoft thought to give him a Shoryuken.
Or, Mamma Mia. The Crimson King doesn't really act like a demon. The soul color seems humanesque. The Raven King directly was. The Sorcerer directly was. Michizane, the big bad, you can see his humanity. He's barely a demon. He's got it under control. Damn, bro, what's that skincare routine, bro? How many demons were born as demons, and how many were originally people that the court let down as a ruling body? There are a few elemental spirits and at least one huge monster from the demon realm present in-game. The great demon chained up below the old capital was allegedly summoned into the world specifically to combat demons, though it's left ambiguous. The words are untrustworthy. I'd say it's just as likely that the Imperial Court summoned a demon from the demon world to crush political dissidents, possibly merge the mortal and demon realms together to do so, and when they couldn't control what they'd unleashed, merely erected the seal for self-preservation. They even built the old capital on top of the seal demon and, quote, basked in its power.
The whole thing is a critique of power consolidation, what it means to wield a monopoly of power over your citizens. It's awesome.
Otogi doesn't just lie to the player by concealing information, right? Burying the lead. It also misrepresents the true nature of the ancient conflict every boss is connected to. Because if it was said what explicitly happened, it'd make you complicit with an imperialist shitheel and leave no real room for ambiguity. You're working for the princess and you're purging her regime's detractors under the guise of slaying mad and mindless demons. But the central question of Otogi isn't as concerned with imperialism or whatever. That's a touchy subject, a little high-minded for the average gamer. So, Otogi asks something more comprehensible. Is your will your own? It's possible you'll struggle with some of the game's fights. Michizane is fair and balanced, of course, so the fight feels like a coin flip sometimes, if you don't use the patented / magic combo I outlined earlier, but your weapon and your magic factor into the game's challenge. I promise this is going somewhere. As a liar game for punks, Otogi conceals scores of weapons in its stages. New and upgraded spells too. Sometimes they're indestructible objects or ferreted away in caves. Almost all of them are trash, but you learn to rely on other weapons very quickly because Raiko's weapon is constantly degrading. No 1,000 times folded steel here, okay? You have to pay the princess at the shop to refurbish your weapons at all, at an absurdly high markup, by the way, for the right to continue using your favorite weapon in perpetuity. Lady, can't you even outfit your contract killers, man? I swear. Standards have really slipped the imperial cord, am I right? A lot of the game's difficulty can be hand-waved with the right weapon, the right combo, the right magic, and making sure your stuff stays sharp. Otogi is not a straightforward action game. It's a dirtbags action RPG with a small layer of cruft so superfluous you'll be asking why they ever thought to include it. I'll tell you why. Swords only. But more importantly, the only way to collect enough weapons for a smooth run is to sincerely engage with the game. Sincerely work with the princess. Killing everything, completing stages multiple times, destroying everything you see. And that all ties directly into the endings. Smash or pass? I don't know, I think it comes down to personal preference. There's an element of player input to Otogi. It's true, you have to kill who you're directed to, but plenty of other demons populate the stages. It's rare you have to kill everything. Stages are packed with buildings and objects, and damage you cause, demons you kill, get counted and saved in the data. You can ignore most of the demons at your discretion. You can spare the land by choice. You don't have to completely buy in. There's room for a little rebellion. Otogi ends with a fight against Michizane, the big Michis, if you will. A clash in the heavens. Bro hits you with bars forged in the flames of the sun like he just got called a slur online.
I bask in the light of the 8 million stars of the heavens. My flesh, burned by the flames of 10,000 nights, is shed.
Damn, bro, me after I stub my toe for real. You beat him down, and in most cases, your ending will involve dispersing Michizane's spirit and presumably allowing the princess to use his flesh to birth new life on Earth or whatever. Maybe letting on that the human species was already basically over. Maybe demons truly can't be redeemed. You were told at the start to collect the 4 essences to bring forth an age of prosperity. Michizane stopped us as we prepared the ritual, but he also didn't bring forth any new life and merely attempted to ascend to godhood. We can infer that he viewed Earth as a lost cause because he originally railed against the court, presumably in defense of all people who would become marginalized, and his resentment festered so badly he desired to leave the realm of mortals behind entirely, even if that meant losing his old love, the princess. The true ending, arguably a worse ending, requires you to smash up most of the world, no I'm not kidding, to free as many souls as possible trapped in those objects, possibly also killing a lot of demons, but the requirements aren't listed online or anywhere. Feel free to comment below if you have a lead. Regardless, you smash more and kill more. You buy into the princess's agenda more. This ending puts Michizane and the princess at peace together. You've gathered the essences to birth a new world, you're free of the princess, at least temporarily, and with the land paved over, cleared of demons by your hand, the next generation has a clean slate. But it's not a good ending, is it? Unless it's possible to undo the demonification of human beings, it's maybe an admission on the part of the game that demons, or demonified humans, can't come back. That we need a full do-over, no trace of the original species to start over. Maybe the greatest lie Otogi tells is that it's just a game about killing demons. So anyway, Raiko, how come your pauldron looks hungry? Okay, so Otogi 2 is so cool if you're already interested in the first game. Just from a narrative perspective, Otogi 1 gave us this desolate, lonely world we saw in snapshots of a land in ruin contrasted with transcendent mystical imagery, aka taking a hoot of jank. We couldn't trust the narrator, but we couldn't escape them either, and so they became another facet of the player, a guaranteed element. Also, while characters noticed the princess working through Raiko, if any normal person saw him, they'd be like, hey pal, get a friend. Raiko's got friends. Looking weird, guys. Every family got the annoying child, the totally unrelatable entity, the seriousest guy, the chungus, the man who hasn't felt a damn thing in 10 years, and the suspiciously good at guilty gear. Tag yourself. I think I've got a guess. Otogi 2 adds 5 playable characters that accompany Raiko throughout the game, and with a comparable number of missions as the original, with a bonus challenge mode to boot, it's a highly variable, player-driven experience, no longer the cropped and curated run from 1. What's interesting is the story, the narrative, justifies the changes. In many ways, Otogi 2 is Seimei's story, or shared between her and Raiko. The others are cool and all, but they're a little unwell. Okay, everyone, I need you to demonstrate how far you'll go for this radiant meow meow. If anything ever happened to Raiko, I'd kill myself.
A reasonable response.
Seimei is something like a revised version of the princess. As a disembodied voice, she was hard to meaningfully connect with or really understand. So much of the history informing the events of the game is muddy, so the sequel makes a point of making its elements more concrete. Here's your summoner, here's some friends. They're weird. Here's all the demons you have to kill, and there will be no more ambiguity about good or evil here. Now it's about survival. It's kill or be killed. The world is a mess. Powerful demon clans plot the destruction of humankind, and each other get crusading. You don't have a choice.
Damn, I didn't realize I was playing Dragon Ball Z, Jesus Christ.
It's a bit of a simplification of what the last game was doing, and that's sad. Hard to pull the same trick twice, though. Unless you're, really optimistic. We got hints that different political factions were in conflict, but we never saw it meaningfully expounded on. And now with 3 different clans of demons, we somehow lose the implied depth of the original game. Demon clans attack each other indiscriminately, even when they're supposed to be working to wipe us mortals out. Though honestly, I'm not seeing a lot of difference between the dog guy and the demons. Maybe he's just one of the good ones. Seimei seemingly believes that deity shouldn't disregard humans as lesser, but has no qualms about ordering the extermination of all demon life, something the first game implied was misguided. The dynamic really does get flattened to us versus them. I pretend I do not see it. Even the back of the box, man. Arise, unite, destroy. Driven by duty and honor, Raiko returns to the demon-infested city to defeat the demons once and for all. That is not. Replace duty with duress and honor with according to the last clinging vestiges of a dead empire, and we might be cooking with something other than lies! And again, the infestation language. As though you didn't stomp out a group of marginalized once-humans on request from your imperial master. Bro, come on! I'm sorry. Giving away the game would be in poor taste, and you know what? Imperialism talk, it's like a total drag, man. Well, for regular people, but I think it's
like taking candy from a baby, which is fine by me.
That said, the Spider Clan, one of the 3 major demon clans in the game, is stated to have been expelled from the court years ago, meaning that, like the Raven demons, they may have once been human. We're still dealing with the fallout of a political regime's villainy. It's just that it's unambiguously about doing good things now, or at least fighting for humanity's sake. In one mission, you're made to kill demons while preserving the remains of humans turned to stone, and Seimei berates you if you fail to protect them all, even though she explicitly states they're beyond salvation, dead. This is the exact mechanical opposite of what the first game demanded for the player to reach the true ending, smashing everything, killing everything. But the tragedy visible in the level is pinned on those who sided with the forces of evil, which again flattens the narrative spun in the original game. The nuance that is maintained, however, and directly aligning with the pro-human perspective Seimei espouses, is the importance of mortality. I don't know if you know this. you only get the one.
You only get one.
A major ghoul, upon being slain, laments the years he lived and realizes that death may have been the salvation he sought, that his master, the fox, will die and he should accept it. Death is a release. Seimei slays 2 centipede demons, provided you don't, and they mock the humans, telling them to struggle. And she replies with,
Life itself is a struggle. To have lived so long and not understand that.
and she's right. It's struggle that defines humanity, that gives joy meaning and creates the lulls necessary for the peaks of our lives, that lays the mold for joy. The mold for the hot, hot resin of life. Who among us has not been relieved when the ultra-spicy burrito shits finally exit the rectal cavity? I enjoyed the spicy sauce, and I bore witness to that self-made calamity. I weathered the storm. I was there. And it's a thread effectively picked up and ran with from the original game. Immortality is the power the court tapped into, possibly the fate the people subjected to the demon realm suffered. The thing, Michizane says, killed the dreams and ambitions of the people. It was an accidental dehumanization in pursuit of absolute power. And Michizane himself fell into that trap by coveting revenge and then the pursuit of godhood over love. In this sense, Raiko's life work as an executioner, bringing misery to the enemies of the court, has effectively become an unalloyed good in Otogi and Otogi 2, putting the immortals, the disaffected and aloof and jaded, to rest. I want to say, as a sequel, Otogi 2 paves over the valleys and hits higher peaks, but that's not necessarily true. The theme this time is choice. You pick which stage of however many to tackle at your leisure. You pick which character to play stage over stage, though there are limitations, like you can only use one character per current phase of missions, because they're all happening at the same time in universe, and sometimes characters just aren't available for plot reasons. I love these varied character designs though. Yeah dude, someone out there totally wants to play a huge honking bastard all the time and have crappy mobility, because that's just their playstyle. Obviously, Kentucky mains, sound off in the comments. I don't believe you. The basic gameplay of the Otogi series, minding your magic meter and making choices about your resource expenditure, is reflected now in the mission structure itself. But it's not just a cute gameplay addition or something to slap on the back of the box, even if they did. It's a narrative reality. These aren't your friends, they're tools. Just how Raiko was in the first game. Seimei is playable and she's the mastermind. She's your summoner. She's more relevant to the plot than Raiko and leads this assorted pack of persons to accomplish her goals. The player steps into her shoes, making decisions, allocating resources, becoming Raiko and Ko's puppeteer. Like you might expect, not all characters are built the same. Kintoki, built different, built wrong. Suetaka, why are you even here? The worst gameplay variations in the original involved weapon choice. If you had a heavier weapon, you jumped lower and moved slower. Weight mattered, even if it wasn't immediately obvious. Here, characters have unique properties. Kentoki can grab and throw enemies, which is awesome and super useful, but he can't alter his jump arc mid-air and he moves like a sack of bricks. Suetaka is a tree now. God, what? He's fragile, but he's good with magic, and his attacks are bigger, and my disdain for people who can't shake themselves out of their own self-created illusions. Wait, what were we talking about? His jumps suck, but at least he can jump forever. Sadamitsu is unfortunate because she's really good, a glass cannon character with great offensive capabilities, but she starts out so weak because Otogi 2 has levels. Just what the doctor ordered. Medical malpractice carries a maximum fine of 200% of the compensatory damages awarded the plaintiff in the state of Pennsylvania. And since I didn't want to bother, she only came out as a quick utility pick for easy, race to the finish, object smashing missions. Otogi 2 is cool. You can screw over your own progression with poor planning. It's not all that bad. Most characters do mostly fine on lots of stages, but some are very intentionally designed against certain characters. You don't want to have to clear out exploding spider eggs with your pure melee character. Suna feels like a get-out-of-jail-free card. He's basically another Raiko with better aerial combat, and I appreciate that. It'd suck ass if you played the Raiko game and never got to play him, and this ain't Raiko, but it's close. Seimei rounds out the squad. She's the highest level off the hop. She's easily the most useful in any situation. She handles stuff better than Raiko as far as I'm concerned. She's available less often. Plot reasons, of course. A lot of stage strategy devolves into picking your favorites and compromising only when you're forced to, or when you're sure you can get away with it. A lot of missions are dumb. A lot of things will kill you in a hit or two. That hasn't changed. The additional characters almost feel like an apology for some of those original missions. That game can feel genuinely hopeless when you're not sure how to advance, but they extend an olive branch here. Now you can lose with like 4 characters instead of just 1! Ignore that Otogi 1 hopelessness narratively jives with Raiko's story. We don't care about narrative. We don't care about story. We only care about fun. We care fun. We sacrifice narrative on the altar of fun. It's hard to call Otogi 2 aesthetically divergent from the first game. You still trudge through the absolute pits and melt your eyes looking at weird magical things. Admittedly, daytime segments were uncommon in the first game, and they help aesthetically align with the sequel's newfound focus on the fight for humanity, ensuring some good came out of the first game, highlighting spots of color in the countryside and transcendental, heavenly sights more frequently than the first. It's an eye-watering game at times, but not just because of the general saturation values, but the countryside and skyscapes are so impressively rendered on the OG Xbox. This is the Armored Core company, you know? This is the Lost Kingdoms crew. FromSoft's surreal aesthetic sensibilities help sell their fantastical games, and I think works to deliver their often deliberately obfuscated stories. Would we have Dark Souls without these ethereal environments and their tenuous commitment to traditional narrative delivery? Would we have Dark Souls without weird muttering freaks?
My, what a beautiful sight.
Who the f*** says that? There's people down there! They're burning, dude! You can smell their skin, dude! Some of these concepts end up as prototypal imagery for later FromSoft games. Like this. And this one, that's a big old snake. Me when I take off my pants. I don't... What do you want from me? I'm begging you, man. Play this on an Xbox One via digital download. No need to hunt down physical copies, which, whoa! Okay, they're good, but they're not groceries good. The first game's original goal was smashing up as much of the world as possible and killing every available demon, trawling through the levels and unlocking every weapon, literally pillaging the lands you conquered in the princess's name. Otogi 2 knows its tech isn't new, its actual play is variable, and its story has changed. With so many characters, they probably saw an opportunity to shift away from the original proposition. Now, you'll unlock new weapons for completing stages with specific characters, on top of additional cutscenes with additional interactions between various characters. The game even tries to tell you who'll do best in any given stage. It's not always 100% accurate, but it's leading you to unlock those things. It's no longer making an effort to make you doubt your actions. But that doesn't mean it's always telling the truth. Otogi 2 is a refinement, but not free from sin. This one mission wants you to beat back a laser-blasting dickweed at the top of a tower, which is annoying, and afterwards, you're made to clean up every last demon in the area to clear the stage. So I did, and ran around the stage like a moron looking for any remaining skeletons until I ran out of magic and died, failing the stage. Okay, so I try again, and same deal, except this time, I go scrounging. What's that? A guy stuck and concealed in a wall? What the f? Eventually I beat the stage, but not before throwing a tantrum. On this one stage, you're meant to guide half of Raiko's spirit using light sources, and you're allegedly able to control the path over land or water, but he would just float off like a toddler without a leash into oncoming traffic. No, baby Raiko, don't do that. I expect this kind of thing from Otogi, unintentionally janky design that leads to some feels bads. You're okay. What I didn't expect was Seimei. She's got some pretty strong opinions about demons, not unlike the princess of yore. She's openly callous about them and wants them to die. And while it's buried, if you go looking, you'll find out she's not the super strategist she's made out to be. In one mission, she tells you that you simply can't take on this pair of demons in combat. You just can't. You suck to hella, my dude. But with the Moonlight Greatsword, or skill, you can kill them, and she's surprised by this. She didn't think it was possible. Later, when you fight 2 of the Centipede boss from the original game, she tells you to wait it out while she prepares a spell to crush them. But again, you can beat them both down yourself, which shocks her even further. It's practically impossible to reach these outcomes on a first play, and for most people, only likely with the coveted Moonlight Greatsword. But it's possible that Raiko grows beyond her expectations. It's possible she doesn't have all the answers, which says something about the ending sequence. In the final set of missions, you're directed to tackle the final boss immediately immediately.
Let us put an end to all this, Raiko.
She tells you straight up, hijacks the scene. None of the other chapters are like that. It's possible you just skip the other available stage entirely. And I did. You battle it out with the nine-tailed fox, a demon god and Seimei's father, whose power was partially sealed within Seimei by her, of course, to weaken him, render him killable by Raiko, presumably because he seeks to obliterate all human and all demon life, transcend them both as a god. Not unlike Michizane, immortality has warped his mind. The fight is fairly easy. You dash and slash. It's not super complicated, but when you win, you're not greeted with fanfare. He dies, and Raiko is put down like Old Yeller. Or like laid to rest, as the game alludes to. Immortality is no way to be, and death is release. Fair enough. Only you can ignore Seimei and choose another mission, a battle with Seimei herself. Now, this fight is hard because if you win using any character other than Raiko, it's a game over. If you beat her with Raiko, which mostly involves abusing the AI as much as possible, you catch her as she falls and remove the orb from her eye, releasing the fox god's power, returning him to full strength. Seimei lives, and the fox is a little bit empowered. The game ends with a race to stop the fox demon from destroying the planet with a meteor. You get some different text and the same unaltered death. The only real difference is that Raiko narrates the mission text.
Stop the demon from calling down the stars.
Stop the demon from calling down the stars.
And Seimei wonders aloud if Raiko is planning to do something of his own volition. Like Otogi 1, this title's ending is fairly mysterious. We don't really understand the implications, and regardless, humankind is better off for our involvement. It's hard to say whether Raiko hijacking the plot was worthwhile. The game accuses Seimei of being a puppeteer multiple times, but again, while true, it's not exactly clear why that's a bad thing in this context. I think it's mostly wrapped up in the context of the original. We aided a person with an agenda uncritically, and we were ultimately unable to change the outcome of the game. We die in either ending the exact same way. The difference lies in how we got there. In the first game, we could spare some possibly innocent demons, once humans, and preserve the world. At greater cost, of course. The game is harder, but you do it your way. You minimize harm in the strapped circumstances you face. You exceed expectations. Otogi 2 allows us, again, to face a greater challenge at greater personal risk. Maybe for no greater reason than to allow Raiko to free Seimei of the orb's poisonous effects, to minimize suffering before his eventual release. A lot of the story is wrapped up in talking about this holy orb that Seimei is hiding in her eyeball, which also happens to be sealing the nine-tailed fox's ninth tail. And though it's killing her, she carried that burden for the sake of the world, a world far beyond salvation, and she strategically weighed her own suffering against the greater good. Raiko choosing to unburden her with his own might is his one real chance to do something more than the bare minimum what was expected of him, to heal instead of merely kill. In case you're not familiar with Japanese history, mythical, literary, and chronological, Raiko, Seimei, your allies, these names are all pulled from real-life sources. Raiko is based loosely on Minamoto no Yorimitsu, or Minamoto no Raiko, a deeply mythologized warrior who went on various adventures with the four heavenly kings, his generals, Suna, Suetaka, Kintoki, and Sadamitsu. Seimei is also based on a real-life onmyoji, basically a Japanese wizard, Abe no Seimei, who would eventually be succeeded by the powerful Abe no Lincoln. The historical Seimei was also said to have been of half-kitsune parentage, even if they swapped sexes for this retelling, and that's fair. This cast is a bit of a sausage fest. Suetaka is just wood. He is the embodiment of wood. Other spins on famous characters exist in-game. Japanese speakers should also instantly recognize the name Otogi. If you're from the West, you're thinking, what's Otogi? Who's Otogi? The actual Japanese title is Otogi Zoshi, which is a body of literature. Fairy tales, as it were, hence Myth of Demons. You're probably familiar with some of these stories if you've engaged with enough Japanese media. Isunboshi, which is effectively a Japanese version of Tom Thumb. It's the tale that featured the size-changing hammer that eventually made it to Trials of Mana. Yeah, these stories run deep. It's so fitting, too, for FromSoft, of all companies, to use Otogi Zoshi as a basis for their video game. Historically, the Japanese literary canon excluded Otogi Zoshi on the basis of them not being sufficiently great enough as literature, and that's partially because they weren't exclusively written, as many of Japan's great historical texts were, by the aristocracy. No, Otogi Zoshi were the people's writings. People from the warrior class, people from the merchant class, and some aristocrats, all penned Otogi Zoshi, the folktales of Japan. So how incredibly fitting that FromSoft, the B-game studio carried by its dedicated Armored Core fanbase, at least in this period of their history, should then tap into the literary tradition of the Otogi Zoshi. And directly in line with the plot of the original Otogi game, Otogi Zoshi were historically critical of the aristocracy, part of why the genre was excluded from their literary canon. And there's FromSoft making their budget titles before the fame and fortune, the people's dev, giving the player room in-game to do what they want, to act how they will, and write their own stories. You may be bound to history to some degree, but entering this game, now a part of the people's history, you have some wiggle room to tell it yourself. Fucking beautiful. There is so much more to Otogi than what you see on a first play, and that's what's really disturbing. How many games are still concealing secrets to this day, narrative, mechanical, or otherwise? How many games blew right past players, past reviewers? How many dev cycles have no real coverage? How many developers never took or received an interview? Games history has so often been flattened. The way real-life academic historians took ages to get on board with social history as a concept, the way the Japanese literary canon took ages to pick up Otogi Zoshi as a concept, as worthy of historical dignity. Games have evolved so rapidly as a medium and with such a focus on the new, the cool, the visually appealing, that whole swaths of its history are hazy and fragmented. Otogi is known not for its cool and bizarre narrative, but because it looked good for its time. Why is this an industry of bimbos? Like I mentioned before, the director of the original Otogi dropped a flop and left. And nobody's coming to fill in his biography or write about his ethos because we're basically trained by our own lived lives to think in meritocratic ways about people. You know, I'll remember this guy because he was important. So nobody is asking why the original Otogi is like that, because we already moved on to Dark Souls. Even when the text is right there, the interesting interrogations spell themselves out if you read them. Only if you read them. You know, whether a game was fun or not, whether a game was good or bad, or where it fits specifically into whatever genre's lineage, it's still an artifact molded and defined by real people with real experiences imparting themselves, as artists do, into their work. How much of a work is comprised of an artist's bad days? How much of a work is pinned together with tragedy? How much of a work is laced with joy? How much of the work can't we see because we can only see the surface? I don't think Otogi is some horrible tragedy or the deepest games that really made me think. I think they're worthwhile and interesting, a fascinating confluence of influences and execution that make for a truly unique experience in the medium.
Does good or evil truly exist?
Me when I live in a society. Hey, it's KBash. Huge thanks goes out to my $4 patrons. Check them out. Beautiful. And double special thanks goes to my extra generous patrons who are Adam Welch, Air Pirate Sig, Acropolis, Alfred Coria, All the Singularities, Alpha 42, Andrew Redacted, Angel Rivera, Anthony, Aaron, Arschwasser, Ashley, my wife, my darling. I asked KBash to make you smile. Also, hi, Merrick, Azrael, Azura, Axonate, Bear Skeleton, Basement Dweller, Bosch 7, Ben M, Beguile, Big Papa Spray, Blake Against the Machine, Wargle Hargle, Blossom Dante, Boom Dead, BH Operator, Born in Shadow, Brandon S, Brandon Hesse, British Gooch, Cow, Cajun Lady, Cakesar, Can I Cuss on Here? Seethe, Cat Girls Are Real, Caesar T, Hero Hero, Court Fox, Cordit, Chris Bromo, Cody Golden, Comfy Moogle, Couch Moba, Crabmonger, Fish Finagler, Crashgers, Crater, Crispy J, Mono 19D, CW Glassworks, Denny Pangos, Danky Stag, Swag, David Castillo, Dara, Dash Granny, Decode, Deadword, Dead, Destrega, Dingus Bat, Doodle Flu, Doug Prince, DJ, Professor K, Dr. Cullen PhD, The Protagonist, Elias, Elpio, Elsa, Emperor Pickle, Empty Tenshi, Eric Monticello, Excalibur Shines, Snar, Fail Knight, Ferns Maximum, Fuzillion, Forte Noir, Frog Vormis, Garen Guarantee, Giggle Bite, Glasses Kohai, Glyph Seeker, Nine Cat, Gobo Bobo, Goose 6112, Gray, The Darkest Black, Corey, Gucci Plant, Hatsune Miku's Crack House, Demon, Game and Station, Hermit J, Honey Mutt, Horn Tiger, How do you know? Huey.
I just took 7 grams of magic mushrooms and now I'm lost in the woods.
I'm supporting KBash just because I wanted to make this part of the the video longer.
Inferno galore.
Ingenious clown.
IOBG.
I punched a sandwich.
It's not bad.
It's time to sue.
It's not good.
Ivy Ruth Langley.
Jack Hydra.
Jacob.
Jalopy.
James.
Jank Dankin.
Jason Lasky.
Jaden.
James Vaughn.
Jay Drito.
JL
Savarus.
Jay Deus.
JK Hedgehog.
John Vo the Joker. Jordan Joyner.
Jorzy Burden. Juicy Frost.
June.
Kaizetta Slow.
K-Chan.
KBash's best K.
Keegan Too Cool.
Keith the Thief.
Kata Snap.
King Kuma.
Keej.
Knight Pike.
Clock.
K-Noe.
Kong 2020.
Kraden.
Crazy Dark Chocolate. Heist.
Kyle.
None. Matt Kyle.
KZ Excellent.
Lady Weed.
Laundry Mom.
Lego Sid.
Lethal Nibbles.
Linkle. Little Big Trouble.
Loathsome Dung Eater.
Low Fat Moger. Lucas Boyd. Blood Mac James.
Lunati.
Magic Meows.
Mama Rollin.
Manapool.
Manic Pixie Space Pirate.
Mara Ganger.
Hercules.
Marcus Rambles.
Maxwell B.
Maximum Dog.
Meaty Smash.
Maple Puppet.
Mega Boy E Nasty.
Metal Gear Gaseous.
Michelle Citrano.
Mike DeVere.
Mikusagi.
Moa.
Bobby Dobby. Big Titty Gop. GF Cooley.
Monochrome Only.
Monochrome Rainbow.
Morgana Black.
Modi.
Mr. Yeety Dabface McYoink Bomb.
Nyrenew.
Nito Torpedo.
Neon Dwarf.
Nifty Rex.
Not Nobel.
Nuggy.
Okami.
Old Burgle. Old Man Cranberry. Omni Nerd Zero.
Only
LK.
The Plant.
Oscar.
Paperlandy.
BBK.
Pandemic Cowboy.
Pelagic
Undulation.
PK Gaming.
Me Mike.
Popular Hitman. Prismatic Dan.
Pringle Prongle. Pringle Prongle.
Probably not Grady.
Project Darklight.
Punch Fighter Champion.
Ponosaurus Rex.
Quasar McDougal.
Quillworth.
Raging Ataraxia.
Real Beans.
Reggie Rodriguez.
Renteca Bond.
Ringed Relay.
Roy Londo.
RP Gamer.
Ryan Machel.
Ryan Maury Brooks.
Saigon Man.
Salsa.
Salty Smasher.
Gabrius.
Scribe Slendy.
Sakai no Award.
Sensual Coder.
Safarium. Sexy Bionicle GF.
Shot.
Nintendo.
Shut up, Wesley.
Silver Bear 909.
Sin.
Sim.
God!
Sir Doodles a lot.
Seriously tired of waiting in line.
Sir Newton.
Sir Slurps a lot.
Skyward Lead.
Sleepy Wabbit.
Snart. Small Turtle House.
So Zeta Dad.
Sock'em Boppers.
Suckdolager.
Space Lizard.
Spider Dad.
Squidget.
Squishword.
Star Night Sky.
Streffin Battles.
Super Dingus.
Super Sandwich Guy.
Taya Toxin.
George Chubbington.
Terrence Swift.
The Big Bubby.
The Clown Prince of Cringe.
The good Lord has blessed me. Hallelujah.
The Green Loki.
The Crispy Boy.
The Peacemaker Pyro.
The Salt Knight.
The Nomad. The Real McCoy.
The Toasted One.
Dick Mystic.
Fresh.
Rips Heart.
Tiggles McGuffin.
Tim Lobster.
Timid the Writer.
Tony Jones. The Legend.
Total Play.
Travis Edwards.
Twiddle Chungus.
Ty Guy 9001. Type A Grapefruit.
Vid.
Vacant Plaza.
Valenrist.
Venom.
Vice Plot.
Video Gore.
Vic.
Joaquin, get right in my bag.
Waposa.
We are so KBash.
Weed Trash.
Waylon.
Where am I? Help.
Whiskey Dodo.
Widgie.
Winter Solstice.
Win TV.
Wrenchim.
Zanny Tanner.
Travius. Yero 12.
Yashichi.
Yay Kundo. Your mom. Winky Face.
Zachary Livesey.
Zachary
Zanasso.
Zane the Impure.
Zane the Pure.
Zed Slayer Gamer.
Zero Salazar.
Z-Nova.
Cyberbunk.
If you'd like to help support the show, unlock new long-form projects, and help me keep improving, check out my Patreon. We got lots more videos in store. Stay tuned for more. KBash out.